political dynasties of corruption, and in finally creating a level playing field for our democracy. I think it is reasonable for the public to hope and expect that this committee will produce a draft bill that is much better than the ones currently floating around in Congress. It would be depressing to think that all this consultation was for naught, just because some legislators think that a few of them in Congress know better than the many citizens, experts, and organizations who now have been consulted for this law. I challenge this committee and Congress to follow through. Now, I also believe that having an opinion means having both an opinion for something and an opinion against something, and that those two are inseparable. So with that in mind, amidst the lack of a more deliberative forum, I would also like to use this opportunity to briefly intervene on certain ideas and opinions and try to eliminate what I perceive to be confusions on this matter. Please give me 5 more minutes.
No, that's too much of a that's 1 minute. 1 minute.
Yeah, but if you have like if you have a position paper, if you have that,
please submit it because we have a long list.
Okay.
Yeah, Carla, request na lang sa
Yes,
kanila.
kindly email the position paper to the Committee on Suffrage, and we will present it to the members.
Okay.
Thank you. Our next speaker is from Bayan Central Visayas by the name of Jaime Paglinawan.
Mga halangdong congressman sa 20th Congress, mga resource person, mga kaigsuunan ako dinhi sa Bulwagan sa University of the Philippines, mayong hapon natong tanan. Ang bagong Alyansa Makabayan Central Visayas nagrehistro itong public consultation na kailangan na ipasar, ibalaod ang anti-political dynasty. At kami nagsuporta sa House Bill 209, House Bill 4784 para buwagin ang mga political dynasty sa ating bansa. Grabe ka-insulto. Almost 40 years after the 1987 Constitution na binigyan tayo ng isang provision na kailangan walang political dynasty para equal yung mamayang Pilipino na magpa-elect sa iba't ibang posisyon. Almost 40 years. Lumulubo, nilapad, lumalawak ang pamilya na nagkontrol sa iba't ibang posisyon. Si Ama naging gobernador ng batas. Bakit hindi nila pinasa ang mga panukalang batas para ipagbawal ang anti-political dynasty? So nakita natin ngayon, habang ang iba't ibang posisyon na kontrolado sa mga iilang pamilya lang, parang mana nila ang kanilang posisyon. Parang negosyo ang posisyon at nangyari, bilyon na piso ang ninakaw. Tayo ang top 3 sa buong Southeast Asia na pinaka-corrupt na bansa. Ito ay masakit na katotohanan. Dahil sa kontrolang sa mga pamilya, hindi natin kayang maimbestiga o mapriso man kahit kitang-kita na yung mga kinawatay sa pundo. Dahil sila rin ang nagdipinsahay. So mga halandong mga congressman, ipakita ninyo ngayon sa 20th Congress na kailangan ipasa ninyo ang tunay para sa tao, ang anti-political dynasty, para yung mga pangalan ninyo mailagay na kayo yung tingunahan ni Chairman Congressman Adjong na kung mapasa ito sa 20th Congress, mailagay yung pangalan ninyo na kayo yung tunay nagmamalasakit sa mga mamayang Pilipino. Balik ko, we support House Bill 209, we support House Bill 4784, break the monopoly of elite rules and advance genuine democracy. Maraming salamat po.
Our next speakers are the members of CIT4, Cyan, Rom, and 2 others, most probably, from the Progressive Alliance of Concerned Technologies. The spelling is really wrong.
Sorry.
Exit. Okay. Hi.
Hello, we are the members of the Progressive Alliance of Concerned Technologians, or PAC CIT.
Technologian. See, that's why I'm so confused.
Yes, I'm sorry for the bad writing. First and foremost, we want to, with what I'm going to say right now, we want to relate our experiences as student activists and, I guess, victims of student repression to why we support an anti-political dynasty measure and why we support every single measure that aims to put transparency and institutionalize consequences to people who use our political system for their own greedy personal interests. We did a signature campaign to clamor for an open and public consultation on the tuition fee increase in CIT. Under Cebu City Students' Rights and Welfare Ordinance, we are, we deserve that, a public...
Focus on political dynasties, please.
Yes.
We have lots of issues in the University of
I'll just
in this
give a little bit of
world.
experience.
We need the
before
political dynasty stand first,
Yeah,
right
okay.
now.
So the reason why we want to support the stance on anti-political dynasties, and again, every single measure that aims to put more consequences to those who use our system for corruption, who use our system to plunder our resources, is primarily for the fact that many people are suffering and deserve to have justice in their hands, right? Students like us who have been threatened with expulsion, we deserve justice, and we deserve it not just in school, we deserve it even outside of school. We deserve it because under our system, we are not the only victims. The victims include Charis Banyes, who was wrongfully imprisoned in Agusan del Norte, or Agusan del Sur, in Agusan. Some of these victims include Frenchie May Cumpio, a journalist who was imprisoned in Eastern Visayas, and many more. including Miles Albacin, who has recently been released, Alvin Fortaleza, who has recently been released. These people are fighting for our rights as we have been. We fought for a public consultation and we got an expulsion threat. How many more people have had worse in our system? How many people have died fighting for even the most basic rights, right? Even the most basic welfare. And yet, family dynasties, who are some of the most corrupt and some of the most fascist individuals in this country, are the ones who are suppressing these, right? Many of the mining companies that have been violent towards protesters, many of the various companies that have been reported to bust unions. By the way, these are, again, our rights, have been owned by political dynasties. Even some of the schools and universities in Cebu have been owned by political dynasties. Again, we register our support for every measure that not only aims to put consequences on corruption, but also every measure that aims to broaden our democracy, to let us be more free in our own country, especially, and I guess more relevant to us, the Students' Rights Bill that Kabataan Party List has been campaigning for many years. We support these kinds of measures because we don't deserve to live in a country where our voices are silenced. We don't deserve to live in a country where signing a petition gets you expelled, and we don't deserve to live in a country where reporting on the truth gets you killed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we now call on Francis Bakatan of Kabataan Party List Cebu.
Carla, please, I request all those participants who have spoken and shared to us their positions on the matter on political dynasty. So please submit your position paper, not just your the way you express it today, but we want to have it submitted in writing para we would know exactly what you mean by your individual proposal and what do you mean by amending certain provisions in the current in the 24 versions of the proposed measure. So yun lang po, i-request ko lang po and then i-remind ko lang po ang ating mga ang ating audience. Thank you very much, Carla.
Okay.
Hello everyone, I am Francis Bakatan, the current Secretary General of Kabataan Party List Cebu City, and I would like to share my manifestation in support for House Bill 209-4784, authored by the Makabayan Bloc, because political dynasties hinder genuine youth representation. Now, as Secretary General of the sole and genuine youth voice in Congress, here in Cebu, we've handled many cases of repression. In every instance of repression, we're told it's against the Cebu Students' Rights and Welfare Ordinance, or STRAW. We are told to go to the institutionalized Cebu straw desks. However, to this day, these structures are left neglected. Why? Because under the domination of political dynasties, it is in their interest to keep the youth disorganized and submissive. By breaking the concentration of power held by dynasties, we pave the way for the genuineness of the youth to be heard. That is why I support the passing of Bill 209-4784, authored by the Makabayan Bloc, as the most comprehensive anti-dynasty bill to ensure genuine youth representation for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you, Francis. The next is from the University Student Council, Supreme Student Council. That's what she or he wrote. Supreme Student Council of San Carlos. All right, Maui Cruz.
Hello, maayong adlaw sa inyong tanan. Ako di ay si Maui Cruz, the president of the USC Supreme Student Council. And on behalf of the council, we would like to register our support, Bill 209 and 4784. Political dynasties do not survive on popularity alone. They survive by building systems that shield them from accountability. When families treat public office as inheritance, dissent, syempre, it becomes a threat. And because there are families that are so desperate to keep power in their kin, they will do anything to fend off any threats to that, which includes repression. And as we near the anniversary of EDSA, we remember how Marcos, as part of the highest and the most notorious political dynasty, relied on weaponizing state forces through martial law to secure political control for his family. Now today, as students, while the context may look different, we still feel similar tactics inside our schools. Within the past few months, students have reported increased state-sponsored red tagging and black propaganda. For example, the continuous attempts of NTF-ELCAC, headed by and supported by political dynasties, to red tag progressive student leaders and organizations online and even inside our campuses, making it harder for students to form organizations, mobilize, and speak on issues that really matter, like political dynasties. Because when political power is concentrated in the hands of a few families, they also gain control over state machinery. And with that control comes the capacity to silence critics and intimidate those who challenge them, even students, especially those who are active against speaking out on pertinent issues. And that is why we support and call on everyone in this room, because in truth, the next person who will be repressed might be someone in this room. To support House Bill 209 and 4784, because these bills are what will genuinely protect the rights and welfare of the youth and will allow us to foster an environment where students can freely organize and mobilize for their advocacies without fear of political persecution from the state or their own schools. We cannot allow more of the youth to be afraid of speaking up and fighting for the future na deserve naman natin. Daghang salamat. Thank you so much.
We proceed to SWV FINMA, Supreme Student Government, Duke Dominique Emia. Did I pronounce that correctly? And is he here? Duke Dominique?
So good
Okay.
Hello. Good afternoon to honorable members of the House of Representatives. My name is Duke Dominic Amia, the current Vice President of Southwestern University FINMA's Supreme Student Government. But today I'm also representing Kabataan Contra Corruption. From Kabataan Contra Corruption, we would like to express our support for House Bills 209 and House Bills 4784. Political dynasties heavily entrenched in our political system destroy the very essence of democracy and accountability, where control is concentrated within families and funds are more easily funneled towards their pockets. In this culture that normalizes corruption, leadership positions are treated as family property, more so run as business rather than positions held to benefit the people. We even see that beyond holding simultaneous positions, dynastic successions extend the same extent of control over governmental positions. In this effect, this is the effect that allows anomalous infrastructure projects to pass. In Cebu, billions of pesos were spent on clearly anomalous flood control, more than 26 billion pesos, but it still resulted in 2-story high floods and more than 200 deaths. This has heavily affected lives of students, where academic materials, papers, laptops were washed away by the flood. It was corruption that made that disaster. Political dynasties benefited from the demise of their constituents. Therefore, in our fight against corruptions, we believe that all forms of dynasties be disallowed immediately and decisively. So Kabataan Contra Corruption therefore supports House Bill 209 and 4784. Thank you and mayong hapon.
Thank you. From the League of Filipino Students Cebu, may I call on Gabby Saavedra.
Maayong hapon sa tanan, sa estudyantihan, sa membro sa House of Representatives o sa tanan pa nga lain-laing sektor nga naakaron sa karon nga forum or karon nga hearing. Mula sa perspektibo ng League of Filipino Students Cebu, buong puso at matibay naming sinusuportahan ang House Bill 209 at House Bill 4784, ang anti-political dynasty bill. We register that there is no good political dynasties. Kanina sinasabi na baka may distinction ang political dynasties. Merong good at merong bad. Pero from the perspective of the League of Filipino Students and all amongst the National Democratic Mass Organizations here in the forum, we register that walang mabuti na political dynasty. Ang mga political dynasty ay hindi lamang baluktot sa eleksyon. Sila ay konkretong mekanismo ng iilang mga pamilya, mga elites. Sa sistemang ito, nagiging instrumento ang pampublikong opisina para sa pribadong yaman ng iilang mga pamilya. Mga bilyonaryo andito ngayon sa ating political spaces, yung mga negosyante na andito pa rin sa ating Kongreso, sa Senado, yung mga may hawak sa malalaking lupa, yung mga Villars, sila andito pa rin sa Senado. So, kinukundina natin yung gantong pag-aalaw ng ating pamahalaan sa gantong mga pamilya na nagmonopolyo sa ating spaces in the political sphere. So, sa pamamagitan ng mga political dynasty, sinasakop nila ang yaman ng gobyerno. Sinasakop nila yung mga projects, yung mga infrastructural projects. Kung dito sa Cebu, yung flood control projects natin na nangunguna yung QM builders saka yung link to Jasper Vizcaya. Yung pagkontrol sa ating mga lupain, yung ating mga kayamanan at iba pang resources na minonopolyo ng gantong mga pamilya. Tinitiyak ng political dynasties ang pagpapatuloy sa sistemang ito. Kaya naman kinukundina natin yung gantong pamamahala ng mga political dynasties. Sa pamagitan ng pag-upo ng maraming posisyon sa halalan, pumapasok po sila sa iba't ibang branches ng ating government, sa Congress, sa Senate, sa LGUs at iba pa. Halimbawa na rito yung sinasabi kanina ni Cebu City 1st District Representative Rachel Del Mar na mismo siya, minana niya yung pwesto sa kanyang generation, sa kanyang ama at iba pa. Yung kuya niya nasa kongreso pa rin. So yung mga ganong mekanismo, nandito, manifested siya at nakikita natin in everyday basis. Walang good na political dynasty. Nire-register natin yan. At ngayon, kinakailangan ng kabataang Pilipino na sumang-ayon na sa lahat ng antas, walang good yung dinudulot ng political dynasties. Nakaka-capture nila kasi yung mga policies, yung mga palisiya, pinapabor nila yung mga proyekto at mga policies na nakabe-benefit sa kanilang mga interest. Ang pagsuporta sa panukalang batas, ang House Bill 209 at House Bill 4784 na galing sa Makabayan Bloc, ito ay pagsuporta sa tunay na demokratikong pampolitika laban sa minumunang yaman mula sa pampublikong opisina at laban sa sistemang kung saan ang gobyerno ay naglilingkod lamang para sa iilan at hindi sa sambayan ng Pilipino.
Wrap up, please.
Huwag nating kalimutan nga ang number one political dynasties ay ang Marcos Duterte. Kinakailangan natin na magkaisa na i-impeach ang Marcos Sara na tambalan at i-oust ang Marcos Duterte. Kaya napakalaga ng mass action sa mga kabataan upang labanan ang political dynasties at upang kaya napakalagang mass actions upang labanan ang political dynasties at ang paghahari ng iilang pamilya sa ating lipunan. Inaanyayahan ko ang lahat ng kabataan ngayon at lahat ng iba't ibang sektor ngayon na sumali sa mobilisasyon ngayong Pebrero 25 upang itigil ang dynastic rule at ipaglaban ang karapatan ng marami. At tatandaan natin, walang pwesto ang dapat minamana. Walang kayamanan ang dapat ipamana. Ang kapangyarihan sa Estado ay para sa sambayan lamang. Kaya naman, lahat ng kabataan, i-impeach natin si Sara, i-impeach natin si Marcos, at i-oust natin ang tambalang Marcos Sara Duterte.
All right. Okay. All of you have position papers that you wish read or submitted to the committee, so take down our committee email. Committee committee.suffrage, you can spell that, you're UP kids, committee.suffrage@house.gov.ph. We will get all your position papers so that we will integrate them in our deliberation. All right, the next speaker is from LP Youth, Matthew Avancenia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Avancenia. I'm from LP Youth. But most importantly, right now I speak as a mildly annoyed citizen of the Republic of the Philippines. There is no greater teacher than history. And no lesson, I believe, embodies this need for this bill more than the tale of the great Qing dynasty. At the height of its power, it inherited a civilization that was richer and more advanced than any other nation on earth. But yet, it was held hostage. Unlike the older dynasties of China, the Qing were ruled by the Manchu, a small group that ruled over an overwhelmingly Han nation, a recipe for disaster, as the Mongolian Yuan proved. As the world outside advanced, the Qing's nobility and leadership, too entrenched with their own power, to maintain that fragile power, they kept their nation ignorant. If you know history, it is no secret that the advancement of technology often coincided with the empowerment of the people, higher literacy rates, economic mobility, and of course, the Qing couldn't have that. They couldn't have their fragile rule challenged by an empowered majority. So the Qing in their hubris, so convinced in their own superiority, great and ancient, lost to an island on the other side of the world, with a quarter of the population and economy. The greatest civilization on earth was carved up like a Christmas ham, and what was once a beacon became synonymous with barbarism. It happened to us too. We had infrastructure, we had industries. When we became an independent nation, something that most of Asia couldn't say, when we became an independent nation, we had what most of Asia could only dream about. Now look at us. There's a bloody educational crisis in an era where information and knowledge flow much more freely than the tap water in Talamban. Meanwhile, look at those contractors. They have houses that would make the most hedonistic Roman emperors blush. Political dynasties may start with strong personalities, but oftentimes they fall into hedonism and compliance. Talent isn't inherited. A common joke I'd like to tell, you know, I'm a distant relative of Bruno Mars, and yet, when I sing, I sound like a mouse whose parachute won't open. We're encouraging kids who grew up in gilded cages, utterly ignorant of reality, to lead. And why should they innovate? Why should they get better if power is as guaranteed as Gucci and tax evasion for these people? We didn't throw a king, a distant president, and an emperor into the sea just so we could be ruled by 100 despots. Let's make politics competitive again. We are in a race. The world is progressing and changing much more quickly in the last 200 years than the rest of human history. We went from biplanes to space shuttles in half a century, and it's only getting more competitive out there. Give us the youth, a nation to be proud of, a nation that can still stand, a nation that will not be looked down upon for being backwards and dishonest. Give us a nation that our ancestors would be proud of. Rizal didn't die for this, nor did Bonifacio. Lapu-Lapu didn't die for this either. Thus, LP Youth Cebu and me, we support the anti-political dynasty bill, Bill 209 and Bill 4704. Thank you.
Thank you. We proceed with, we call on Howell Villacruzes of Alianza sa Mamumuo sa Sugbo, Kilosang, Mayo 1. I'm sorry for those who wish to be included in the list because we are flying out to Cagayan de Oro City in a matter of 4 hours. And so as much as we want to accommodate everyone, we can't. So please email us at committee.suffrage@house.gov.ph. Yes, Mr. Villacrucis.
Mayong hapon sa tanan. Ako ni si Howell Villacruz, gikan sa Alyansa sa Mamumuo sa Sugbo. Kinusang mayon sa Alliance of Workers in Cebu. So, kami sa Alyansa sa Mamumuo sa Sugbo, nagsuporta sa House Bill 209 o 4784. No? Sa mga aspeto nga una, broad siya og scope. No? It is broad in scope, meaning it covers local and national elective positions. Secondly, it is strict in definition. So dapat klaro nga katong second to the fourth consanguinity or affinity kay implement siya. Third, it should be effective in enforcement. Dapat klaro pod ang disqualification ug ang mga penalties sa paglapas aning balaod nun. Kaupat, dapat protektahan siya or protected from delusion or protected siya from the loopholes nga pwedeng buhaton. Loopholes that could be created by the political dynasties that are now currently seated in Congress and in the whole state, in truth. Sa tinuod lang, kung makita na to, no, ang political dynasty is in the executive branch and legislative branch. Kung makapasa na pa siguro sila law, basin na sila sa judiciary branch, no? So, we can never say that the judiciary branch is also rid of it. So, we believe that the anti-political dynasty bill should be passed immediately because, one, for sure, Sara Duterte is running to make sure that her father could get away from ICC. And their allies can get away unscathed from all the corruption and killings they have done during the regime. Secondly, Marcos Jr., as we have seen, once he took the seat of power as president, he cleaned up his family's cases of corruption. And we cannot allow that to happen all the time. And I agree with si Sir Ganiha, the one from Mandaue, that it is Filipinos are made to easily forget. We do not easily forget. We are made to easily forget. So maybe we could put into the bill a measure which will entrench or put the records of political dynasties and their crimes against the people into the history books, so that it could be studied all over again by the people so we never forget. Because as a representative of the workers, we know our interest could be put simply into three things. First, job security. Second, living wages. Third, humane working conditions. But even one of the House bills filed by the Makabayan bloc supporting all those has not been passed because we believe that political dynasties are hindering it. Because political dynasties are one of the manifestations of what we call and what we analyze to be bureaucrat capitalism. Gipadagan ang atong gobyerno nga murag negosyo o gipadagan siya sa mga politikal nga dinastiya para pagserbisyo sa ilang mga kakuntsabo ng mga negosyante. O dili ta dapat magpakahilom kabahin ani. And it is a challenge to the committee that what will happen after these consultations, what will happen during the 20th Congress, will decide if you are in the right side of history. History will judge you. It may be the case that political dynasty right now is all over the Philippines, but once the people emerge victorious, you will be judged by history. So remember that, and it is a challenge to everyone in this room, that the Philippine politicians will not move unless we make our voice clear. So it is a challenge to everyone to get organized, join your organizations, move within mobilizations, and push
for the change that we want to happen in our society. Mora na, dahil salamat. Minatali pag-ibig sa tanan.
Next is Mr. Fiel Leaf of UP Cebu.
Hello, my name is Fial. I am the chairperson for the UP Political Science Society, and I promise to keep this sweet and short.
Thank you.
We would like to manifest our support for House Bills 209 and House Bill 4784 for three simple justifications. Because one, we have to ask ourselves, why do we still have to debate varied frameworks for the draft of the anti-political dynasty measures when the historical timeline in the Philippines has already shown great injustice since the past? That scholars have already published data, findings to show that local government units with political dynasties are directly related to poverty and underdevelopment. You learned that in your 151 and 152. But also, we have to see how political dynasties have entrenched not only the local systems, but all to the national systems and the relations between them. It shouldn't be a debate whether or not should we tiptoe around the policy. Should we give families some level of assurance that they can still run together? Should we still allow cousins to be in office? In fact, the policy should be blanket, should be comprehensive, and should be harsh. Because dynasties have been harsh. We shouldn't debate if it's second degree of consanguinity or fourth degree of consanguinity. Because the answer should be clear. It should be right there and adamant. Why? Because we've had the clear threat and the long overdue of a policy that has been promised to us since the 1987 Constitution. I think it is time that we should all rally behind a measure or a draft of the anti-political dynasty law that is comprehensive and immediate to all of the issues that we know, where political dynasties can't just train their cousins to be the next person in Congress, where they can't just convince the girlfriend of their boyfriend of their girlfriend to be the next person in the Senate, where they cannot just try to use all of the loopholes because we were too careful of our policies, because we wanted to be careful about impeding on quote-unquote representation for these people. There's power dynamics when people run for elections, and when families are allowed to continue, even if not through their immediate family, but even by the second consanguinity. These are harsh truths where you have the executive collaborating with their cousin in the legislative, appointing people who they want in the judiciary. These are problems that should be treated with urgency. So if the problem is, I might stop my friends or I might stop someone from allowing their granddaughter to run in office, that's a good problem to have. Because at the end of the day, leaders from the communities, from unions, from the farmers to different sectors will always emerge. What we have to do is to allow them to have the opportunity to compete equally, to compete fairly, because families, when they are big, will not be treating us peacefully. For all those reasons.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Ms. Cristina Organiza of Akbayan Citizens Action Party and Gahum sa Katauhan. Where is Ms. Okay, all right.
Mayong hapon, ako si Cristina Organiza from Akbayan Citizens Action Party. Member po at member rin ng Gahum sa Katauhan. So, to our members of the lower house of representatives, magandang hapon din po. So, despite opportunities, ito po ay mula sa mga communities po namin. Despite opportunities over the more than 100 years of dominance by families, at papangalanan na lang po namin such as the Osmeñas, Gulyases, Uwanos, Calderons, Duranos, Martinez, and the like, statistics on poverty show numerous families across rural Cebu still struggle with inadequate income, access to basic needs, and opportunities for socio-economic mobility. Data from the Philippine Statistics Authority indicate that while provincial poverty incidence declined, it remains significant, particularly outside the highly urbanized cities of Cebu, Mandaue, and Lapu-Lapu. 7 districts in Cebu exhibit stark disparities in development, with areas in the southern part of the province often classified as lower income or lower class municipalities. Historically, political families have maintained long tenures in many of these districts, leading to critiques that entrenched political power has not translated into meaningful and inclusive socio-economic progress in the poorest communities. This starkly shows the inadequacy of a system dominated by the political families. The anti-political dynasty law is necessary given the systemic problem in which the rich remains rich and gets richer, while the poor remains poor and gets poorer. Our position, number 1, political dynasties is one of the root cause of persistent inequality. We assert that political dynasties where members of the same family occupy elective positions across generations contribute to governance challenge such as A, concentration of power and weak political competition, B, biased allocation of public resources and patronage politics, C, limited accountability to constituents, D, reduced innovation in local governance strategies. These factors can impede systemic approaches to rural development, livelihood programs, and poverty reduction, particularly in districts struggling to diversify their economies. Number 2, support for a 4th-degree restriction with safeguards. We support legislation that prohibits relatives within the 4th civil degree from simultaneously or consecutively holding elective office as a meaningful step toward preventing entrenched political monopolies, provided that the law is comprehensive and enforceable. Specifically, A, definition must be clear and enforceable. The bill should define dynasty in a way that captures not just immediate succession, but also circumvention tactics, rotation, substitution, and overlapping positions that political clans use to retain power. B, avoid loopholes that permit circumvention. Provisions should explicitly ban substitution, rotation, and immediate succession of relatives. This ensures the law prevents dynastic perpetration of political power instead of merely limiting concurrent office holding. And letter C, establish a cooling off period. A mandatory cooling off period requiring a full electoral cycle before a prohibited relative can run for the same or overlapping post will help break cycle of immediate political inheritance. And number 3, governance and service delivery. Breaking dynastic dominance should not be an end in itself, but a means to strengthen governance, performance, and public service delivery. The law should be accompanied by 1, institutional reforms in civil service professionalism. 2, transparent procurement and budgeting processes. 3, support for community leadership and grassroots representation. 4, local economic development planning and prioritizes the poorest districts. These measures can create pathways for emerging leaders rooted in community concerns rather than familial concern. In conclusion, I should say familiar connections. In conclusion, in the context of Cebu, where persistent poverty in rural districts and uneven development outcomes remain significant concerns,
A genuine and comprehensive anti-political dynasty law grounded on a fourth-degree prohibition can be an important reform. However, for it is to meaningfully promote democratic inclusivity and socio-economic development, such as legislation, must be free of loopholes, enforceable, and paired with institutional governance reform. Political power should be determined by merit and public support, not lineage and inherited privilege. Ensuring broad political participation and accountability is integral to addressing long-standing challenges like poverty, inequity, and governance deficits in Cebu's 7 districts. Og hangyon gihapon namo og pangusga namo ang gahom sa katawhan.
Thank you. So now at this point, we wish to call on stage the chair of the Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms, Chair Zia, and the University of the Philippines, Cebu Chancellor Leo B. Malagar. Okay, all authors and members of the House, kindly come up on stage for a photo opportunity with the one, the only, Chancellor Leo of UP Cebu. Love it. Dito po sa stage, sirs. Again, reminding all of you to email us at committee.suffrage@house.gov.ph for all your positions. Ma'am.
Si Chair. Ma'am. So, on behalf of the committee, Chancellor Malagar, daghang salamat sa imong accommodation. On a very short notice, you responded to a positive way and allowed us to use your campus as a venue for the public consultation. So allow me, Your Honors, Chancellor, to read Republic of the Philippines, House of Representatives, Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms, 20th Congress. Certificate of Appreciation is hereby given to Attorney Leo P. Malagar, Chancellor, University of the Philippines, Cebu, for their invaluable contribution in the successful undertaking of the public hearing on anti-political dynasty measures held on February 19, 2026, at the Performing Arts Hall, University of the Philippines, Cebu, Cebu City, given this 19th day of February 2026, signed by the chairperson. Maraming salamat po. Thank you very much.
In sum, ladies and gentlemen, this public hearing, public consultation, fully 100% supports the institutionalization of prohibiting political dynasties. Not one speaker expressed support for political dynasties. Is that an accurate summation of this public consultation? All right, UP fight! Let's go!
Thank you. I'd like